Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to today's presentation, Youth Settlement in Action, How Sectors Can Build Their Capacity to Support Newcomer Youth. Before we begin our presentation today, we would like to begin with an acknowledgement that N4 is hosted at CHEO, which is located in Ottawa, Ontario. Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. The peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia, and we honor them and this land. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. We also honor all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. My name is Colleen Drake. I am N4's Project Engagement Coordinator, and I will be hosting and moderating today's presentation with my colleague and co-host, Andrew Tomeyer, Education Coordinator, who will be monitoring the Q&A box today. I am now pleased to introduce you to today's presenters. I'm going to ask you to turn your video on as I introduce you. Carolee Israel Turner is the local and regional partnership coordinator for the WRAPCAP project at the Centre For Newcomers in Calgary. Carolee has over 30 years of experience working from a frontline to managerial and leadership positions within the nonprofit sector. For the last 20 years, her primary focus has been working in collaborative positions, facilitating case management and shared strategies between justice, health, children's services, and community agencies in the areas of risk management, domestic and sexual violence, and high risk youth intervention. Her specialties are in first responder strategic development, authentic partnership relations, operational community development initiatives. Thank you so much, Carolee. Welcome. Kate McDougall is the Regional Youth Liaison for the WRAPCAP project at the Centre for Newcomers in Calgary. Kate is a global experienced professional who has worked in the nonprofit and settlement sector for over a decade. Currently residing in Calgary, she is the Regional Youth Liaison and the WRAPCAP program at the Centre for Newcomers. In addition to her current role, Kate is involved in fund development and in the past 4 years has secured over 25 million in funding for her organization. She is passionate about reducing barriers and accessing quality outdoor sports for BIPOC youth and is actively involved in creating quality programming partnerships with other organizations in Calgary. In 2022, Kate was honored with the Future of Good's Top 30 Under 30 Youth Impact Leaders award presented by RBC Future Launch, which recognized her as one of the 30 changemakers to watch for in Canada for her entrepreneurial spirit. Welcome to you both. I just have a few other housekeeping slides to run through. A recording reminder, today's session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our N4 platform. We will share this with you as soon as it becomes available. Should there be any technical issues during this presentation, we will inform you with details for an alternate makeup session. Before we begin today's event, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our platform features to help enhance your participation experience. Throughout today's session, we invite you to write your questions in the Q&A window. We know that sometimes many of you might have the same questions or be interested in a particular response. So today you have the option of upvoting a question. Please upvote questions you're interested in hearing the answer to, and we will prioritize these to our speakers first. N4 is pleased to announce that select webinars are now accredited. Members of the Canadian Psychological Association, CPA, and the Canadian College of Health Leaders, CCHL, earn credits towards their maintenance of certification requirements by attending select webinars, today being one of them. You have CPA members have 1 credit and CCHL members receive 0.5 Category 2 credits for attending the select webinars. Our speakers have no conflicts of interest to declare. And with that said, let's jump right into today's presentation. And I'm very pleased to pass the virtual podium over to Carolee and Kate. Thank you so much.
Hey, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So as Colleen had said, my name is Kate. I am the Regional Youth Liaison at Centre For Newcomers, and my colleague Carolee as well is here today. We're going to be talking a bit about what we have learned over the last couple of years through our WRAPCAP project. But before that, I think Carolee is going to just do a brief land acknowledgement from where we are in Calgary.
Good morning, folks. We hope that you're having a good day and a good start to whatever territory or region you get to work and play on. The Centre for Newcomers acknowledges that we are on the traditional ancestral lands of Treaty 7 of Southern Alberta. These lands extend from the North Saskatchewan River down to the Yellowstone River in Montana, from the Rocky Mountains east into Saskatchewan. These territories include those of the Blackfoot Confederacy of Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, and the Blackfeet of Montana. Tsuut'ina Nation, Stoney Nakoda Nation, which includes the Goodstoney, Chiniki, and Bearspaw bands, Métis Region 5 and 6, and all those who have chosen to make this place their home.
So before we dive into our project and our presentation, I wanted to just share a little bit about what WRAPCAP is in case you're not familiar with us. So WRAPCAP is a regional 5-year initiative that's led by Centre For Newcomers in Calgary and has been funded by Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada. This organization is often referred to as IRCC. So if you hear us reference IRCC, we are referring to Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada. So our project seeks to build organizational and sector capacity through the use and implementation of the wraparound service delivery model when working with newcomer youth. We operate across the PNT region, which includes Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. However, we do have a reach in our project beyond to British Columbia, Yukon, Ontario, and Quebec, with partners and youth that are engaged in the project from those areas of the country. A core component of our project is centering the lived experiences of newcomer youth and applying these experiences to the processes and programs that exist to support them in their settlement journey. Our project has evolved since we started in 2020, as it began in the pandemic and has had to adapt to the new realities of our partners and youth. And we're going to share a little bit about some of the successes we've had and what we've learned over the last few years. So our team is primarily myself and Carolee. We also have support from our wraparound service delivery instructor, Darcy Gage, as well as our external evaluator, Lindsay Gwynn, and our director, Noel Bilabi. So I'm going to share a little bit about the work that we've done with the youth the last 3.5 years. And then I believe Carolee is going to share a little bit more about the partnership side of this project. So our youth that have been involved in this project are the ages 13 to 29. They are of any status of newcomers, so that includes permanent residents, refugees and refugee claimants, international students, temporary foreign workers, new citizens, as well as first and second generation immigrants. Or immigrant youth, sorry. So youth that have been born to immigrant parents. We have youth that are from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut, but also from the Yukon, Ontario, and Quebec. So in the first 2 years of our WRAPCAP project, We had a lot of youth and partner engagement work that we did. As this was the peak pandemic, everything was done virtually, and it had an impact on how we had to adapt our project to maximize engagement. Our early stages of the youth advisory tables involved monthly workshops where we explored different topics that are shared on this slide. These topics were then brought into the partnership monthly meetings where the discussion mirrored what we discussed with the youth, and we were able to share some of the perspectives, realities, and experiences that these newcomer youth had talked about. The youth advisory tables were then established shortly after that, where we hosted panel discussions between the partners and youth, as well as created youth podcasts, and then eventually evolved into youth researchers and smaller working groups. So if you take a look at the graphic on the left, you can see all the work that we did. Carolee will speak a bit more about the partnership and coaching side of things, and I will dive a little bit deeper into the program development that you see in this graphic. So one of the big features that we did with our youth, because it was the pandemic, was we decided to run a podcast. So in the span of about 4 months, I did 130 podcast interviews with youth about their experiences on immigration and settlement in Canada. And we got some really amazing stories that were very impactful for our partners and have changed a lot of how the partners approach their service delivery or collaborate with other sectors. And it's been highly successful. We're still working on editing these podcasts because it was a lot to do, but they will eventually be available for all of our partners to access and share. As the pandemic came to a close and life got back to normal, we began to see that it was a bit more difficult to engage with the youth in big group meetings. So we adapted to do more one-on-one sessions, as well as providing the opportunity to be more involved through a youth researcher opportunity. I just wanted to share on the screen, you'll see some of the feedback from our youth that participated in the first 2 years of the monthly meetings and podcasts and panel discussions, and many of them continued to work with us in one-on-one aspects. So I mentioned briefly the youth researcher opportunity. What we did was there was a few youth that were very interested in being more involved with the partnership side of our project. And so we got them together and we decided to do youth wrap training with them. So in 2022, this team of youth came together with our coach, Darcy Gage, and we got to experience what wraparound training would be like as if they were service providers. So we ran through all the different principles, the different training steps with them, and really wanted to get their understanding of what WRAP was so that they could provide better perspectives and feedbacks on the role of using wraparound for service providers. So one of our first activities that we did with them was to look at the 10 wraparound principles and adapt them to a youth perspective. So on the screen, you'll see 3 examples of the 10 principles that we adapted that shows the original principle as well as the new principle that the youth created. These principles were then shared with our partnership group and have informed the adaptation of our wraparound model that we are now using for our trainings with partners. So it was a really cool activity to just see where they differed or where they had similarities to the WRAP principle, and then understanding why they had the perspective they had. Another really important activity that we did during this WRAP training with the youth was looking at strengths and culture. It was probably the most impactful activity that we did, if I'm honest. This session specifically, we had asked them to share 3 of their strengths and why they chose them. So we kind of shared this little chart on the left as an example for them to kind of pick what strengths they had. And it was really interesting to see the variance in their ability to self-identify strengths. Some of them found it really easy and were able to choose 3 strengths right away and explain why they chose them. And then there were others that really struggled and a few that weren't even able to choose one strength. After the activity, we actually had one youth who couldn't choose a single strength come up to us and want to talk a bit more about her perspective on the matter. So we saw a big shift in how she looked at her life. She had shared how some of the challenges she had had when she was younger revolved around her mental health. And basically, she was baffled why therapists and health professionals were not using a strength-based approach when they were doing therapy with her, instead focusing their time on the problem and how to solve it. So as this training continued and after this session specifically, we saw so much growth in these youth, just changing their lens and how they basically assess themselves, how they identify, and how they approach life. So there was a huge growth in their confidence, their relationships with their parents and their siblings and their peers. And recently, in January, we actually had a 3-day conference where one of these youth spoke in partnership with Darcy, our coach. And she talked a lot about why schools and therapists and settlement organizations should be using WRAP principles, especially like the strength-based approach in their day-to-day service delivery. So whether or not you're using the whole model of wraparound or you're just taking bits and pieces and applying it, there's a huge benefit of using some of these aspects. And we've gotten the youth feedback on what they think is important and why. And we've been working with our partner organizations to give them the tools and resources they need to be able to use those identified strategies from WRAP to better serve newcomer youth. So as our project evolved, we started to realize that we needed somewhere to house all of this information and all of the resources and all of the training that we had been developing. And especially because, as Carolee will mention when she starts to share a bit more about the partnership side of this project, we have a quite large partnership group that spans across different sectors. And it's a lot of work to really be the person that's organizing the relationships, the collaborations, sharing the resources. So our hope is to basically create a space where they can access a lot of these resources and supports directly. So IRCC in 2023 actually approved our request to create an online platform for our partners. So we're in the process of combining all of our tools and resources and housing them. So right now we have our e-learning, which is going to house our wraparound training that Darcy has done with the partners. We have a youth blog. We have different tools and templates that have been created either by the partners or by the youth that partners will be able to access and utilize in their service delivery. We also will have access to the youth podcast through this site. There will be a partner forum where partners can go to pose questions. Youth will be able to answer some of these questions specifically, or they can figure out, who do I talk to if I have an X issue and how do I get the support I need to better serve the youth I'm working with. We'll also have a partnership directory where people can go in and search by sector, location, different services provided so that they can better collaborate across sectors to improve their service delivery. So the big key component of this platform is going to be our wraparound training. So what we're currently doing with myself, some of our youth researchers, and our WRAP coach, Darcy, is that we've adapted the levels of wraparound and we've created 4 different training levels. So depending on what sector you're in, might depend on how many levels you would complete of this training and how you would use the training in your services. We're putting together video coaching as well as youth values and principles, handouts, worksheets that can be accessed by partners, as exploring WRAP themes, which is kind of a new iteration of wraparound service delivery. as well as creating with the youth different interactive graphics, quizzes, etc., to try and really make this training as engaging as possible. And so with that, I will pass it over to Carolee to explain just a little bit more about the partnership side of things and how the relationship between what we've been doing with the youth and the platform and the podcasts, etc., relates to the partnership side of things.
Thanks, Kate, and welcome everyone. Really excited to see health and settlement at the same training at the same time. So that makes me really excited. So Kate's going to be my Vanna as we progress through the rest of the presentation, and I'm going to sometimes look off to the side because I might share some stats with you depending on time. So if we go into this, you know what, when you actually do a capacity building project, it really is like Tuckerman's model of forming, storming, norming, and performing. When we first started in May of 2020, like all of you who've had to start something during the pandemic, it is not a straight line. It was really tough to get people to engage, and you have to be, as a facilitator, okay with that. Like, what is this? We know what wraparound is. Like, why would we join something like this? Why would we, I don't know, but I need resources, so maybe I'll join because I might get that. You have to be okay with people's motivation for joining a project like this. So to go to wraparound, to the next slide here, my job was supposed to engage partners from different sectors to come to the table to kind of say, hey, this is why wraparound is beneficial. This is how, if you do this with youth, you'll get more for your bang for your buck. So Kate talked about the principles and she focused on 3, but this is all the principles that WRAP actually supports. And for those of you who don't know, wraparound, high fidelity wraparound in particular, was something that was really promoted within child and family services in the US, and is also used to certain elements up here in Canada by the same system. But these 12 principles is supposed to be what partners are trying to engage youth at. Make sure that they have their own voice and choice. Make sure that they have natural supports, which is community members and family involved in this process, to make sure what they give is culturally competent, which I'll address why I don't like that term, and talk about unconditional care and the strength-based aspects of things. That's what I was supposed to do here. And then if we go on to the next phase, we're also supposed to talk about the phases of wraparound, which is the next slide that we'll present to you. And I was supposed to go, you know what? It's an intervention style. It's a way of engaging newcomer youth. And it was very linear. Hey, step 1, engagement and preparation, which is intake. Step 2, how to get a plan together so that youth and their families feel that they have somewhere to go and a direction to go. And step 3, how do we have meetings where everyone knows what we do and what we don't do, and so that they can reach their goals and their desires, and then transition when people leave your service. Easy, hey? It's supposed to be an easy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type of thing. And when we go into the next aspect of wraparound, when we talk about how to do intakes with youth, I was supposed to teach people, hey, this is a tool called a discovery tool. And that sometimes we don't always ask youth all of these different areas of their life, what's good about it, what's challenging about it, and what they need about it. So the fact that we talk about home residents, but we don't talk about what do they do for fun? Do they miss their pets? Was that a major way of supporting their mental health or their ability to settle? We don't ask about all of these areas. So down here, our WRAP coach says there's 9 areas we should be asking youth about. Spirituality is a big one where people fail to recognize that actually plays a role in terms of how youth settle and how youth feel like they either belong or don't belong. So I was supposed to do all that. I was supposed to say, hey, that's how that works. And if we go to the next slide, I was also supposed to encourage the following. You notice I keep saying supposed to a lot. I was supposed to talk about how natural supports is really important for a youth and a family. And natural supports, for those who are not familiar, how their faith leaders are important, how their community leaders are important, how friends and mentors and coaches and teachers can all play a role in helping a newcomer youth feel like they belong in Canada, that they can settle comfortably in Canada, and to help develop that systems response. But you know what we had to do? We had to stop. So the next slide shows what we did. Kate said in the first year, she reminded you that she got the youth perspective on different areas of things. their perspective on justice, their perspective on health and mental health. So I'll go after those two because that's who's here today. Their perspective on settlement. And you know what I figured out after the first 2 years of teaching what wraparound was and introducing the concepts of the settlement? I went, you know what? I don't know if this is working. Maybe because it was the video aspects of things and it was hard to engage. But you know what I kept hearing? I kept hearing over and over again what partners needed. That they found this overwhelming, that they found this intimidating, that they found this COVID thing where they had to hit certain funder requirements, hit certain targets overwhelming. And they kept telling me that over and over and over again. And then I thought, why would they even listen to me if they themselves are overwhelmed? So this is what we did. We did a full stop, January 22nd, January of 2022, full stop. It's like, you know what? They know this. They know how to interact with youth. But they're telling me they don't have the resources to do it. So when we go back to the principles this time, we apply the principles to the partners. So if we go into that, same principles that we use for youth, but apply it to the partners, the partner's voice. I heard a lot of stories from different partners going, this is overwhelming. And particularly from health, who said, you know what, we're seeing more and more newcomers with disabilities. We don't know how to talk to them. We don't know how to interact with them. We're not quite sure of the resources out there. And so that cultural competency part that I said I don't like, how do we be culturally responsive to their needs? How do we respond to culture in the aspects in the environment of health, in the environment of education, in the environment of settlement? So those are the two things I'm going to pick on first. So what did we decide to do? We decided to work with organizations based on where they're at, because that's what we keep telling clients, and treat organizations like clients. Why would they do wraparound if they themselves don't feel heard, they themselves don't know what their strengths are, or they themselves don't feel like anyone's advocating for them? A lot of them wanted to do what the youth were saying. Take the time to talk to me, take the time to do it. But you know what? The pressures of some of the things, some of our partners, there's one person who's running the show. They do the ED, they do the HR, they do the onboarding. They're like, I don't have time to do this. So we moved to talking to partners and engaging them in the process. Engage with them, plan with them, implement with them. So let's go a little bit further on that. So when we talk about the culture of engagement, just like you do with the youth, because youth know when you are blowing smoke, and so do partners. Do you really care about them? So the culture of engagement was, I encourage partners to pick up the phone and call me about anything, whether they were frustrated with staff, whether they're, I don't know, a system that frustrated them, but I was authentic. So the way I'm talking to you now is how I talk to everybody, because I learned that's what people want to see and they want to hear. In our partnership meetings, as Kate said, youth were invited to participate in partnership meetings, and I always told youth, don't edit. Say what you think, say what you feel, but do not edit, to get the partners used to different voices. But I also encourage partners to participate as well. Change your speech, introduce different voices, change the cadence of your speech. Let people get used to accents. Do not change who you are. And to practice that active listening piece. Partners would call me many times to talk about, you know what, I have this case I have no idea what to do with. And you know what, I have to admit in the beginning, I got overwhelmed. I'm like, they keep telling me what's wrong with their system. And I think they're expecting me to fix it. Now, once I got over myself, I went, you know what, they're not expecting me to fix it at all. They just want someone to listen. And just like if you ever worked with victims or work with victims of trauma or survivors, more accurately, of trauma, sometimes they'll say something 9, 10, 11 times before they feel heard. And so I decided to do that. And we decided to change the language. Capacity building, new catchphrase. What's capacity building? What is that? How do you describe that? What do you need? And what they need is not, their definition of capacity was not necessarily human or financial or resource development. It's like, what do you need to get to the end of the day? And finally, that engagement piece was identity-based leadership. A lot of the partners that we work with were newcomers ourselves or second gen, which is me. And so bring your identity into the process. HR, education, business education would say, don't bring your identity to work, don't bring your culture to work. But in this case, if we want youth to feel that their culture and identity is important, we must respect the identity and culture of the partners as well. So that's what we did in engagement. So if we go further into that aspects of things, and that's what we've been trying to do for the last 5 years. So if we go into the engagement stage, you can see what we've tried to do. The biggest thing is pace. If you want to do a capacity building project, tell all your funders, you do not get traction until 2.5 years into it. You will not get traction to 2.5 years into it. So that not necessarily storming, norming, or forming, but it takes that long to gain trust. And if you've ever worked with a patient and ever worked with a client, you know you don't rush that pace. You know you don't rush it. You will potentially destroy that relationship if you make it about you and not about them. For the partners focusing on voice and choice and resources, timing and coaching, I have to follow through what I'm saying I'm going to follow through. So if a rural partner said, you know what, I can't find anything rural to support this demographic group, and I go, I'll try and find it for you. But if I can't find it for you, I'll tell you I can't find it for you. To do what I'm saying I'm going to do, because that's what youth need. Organizations also need emotional support. I know in Alberta, the health system there's going to be some changes to it. I know there's anxiety behind that. I know there's pressure behind that. I have to provide social, emotional support to that system. If I want that system to do that to youth, I have to do that for that system. And I need to learn what systems need and not what they want, right? I need water to survive. I want chocolate, but I don't need it to survive. So there's a difference. And that turnover, as Kate was alluding to, that constant turnover in the settlement sector and the constant feel like you just keep spinning your wheels because you want to give good service. I know partners and systems want to give good service, but that turnover is a reality. And so we need to think when we have capacity building, capacity is the ability to join as a team, get rid of the concept of competition and get rid and invite the concept of invitation, that we got to think of transition in mind. And if we're going to have 500,000 newcomers come over every year, one sector can't handle all that. So you got to think of transition. So we moved into the strengths, needs, and culture requirements for organizations. So if we move to that, you will see that it was just like the youth had a hard time talking about what they were good at. Organizations had a really hard time what they were good at. We have 74 formal partners, 14 observers, 16 post-secondary partners, and 11 housing partners. Both are local, municipal, and federal. And you know what? When you talk to them and say, what are you good at? What makes you good at working with newcomer youth? A lot of them couldn't answer, just like youth can't answer. So why are you getting mad at youth if you yourself can't say it? We talked about newcomer engagement. For each one of these areas, just like I talked to you before when we do intakes and the 9 elements of someone's life, there's certain elements of an organization's life that we talk about. Mandate, newcomer youth engagements. What resources do they have? What case management do they have? What professional development do they get? And we recognized with each of these, there's strengths and there's barriers and there's needs for each of them. So you know what we did? We sat down each sector and we had them come up and do this document. If we move through to the next stage of wraparound, which is team building, the biggest thing that we're seeing and the biggest referrals that WRAPCAP is receiving is the need for disability services, particularly from rural. So what schools and particularly settlement workers in schools are seeing is the presence of autism, is the presence of cerebral palsy, is those brain injury, is those other aspects of things. And if I have time, because I'm making sure I stay within my 20 minutes, I will add some of those stats that school boards are saying they're seeing and they don't know how to deal with. With mandates, particularly with team building mandates, you have to understand that every organization, every sector has a mandate. But there's ways, if you really take the time, you can coordinate those mandates. So you can actually do things. And how do you coordinate? By understanding the decision-making process of each system. So the project took the time to understand each sector's mandate and who and how decisions are made in that sector so that we can actually provide collaboration for them and to encourage national supports. People in the community, that might actually help these partners so they don't feel so overwhelmed. I know that's not a thing. I know that you're supposed to be the experts, but what's wrong with saying, you know what? I don't know. And maybe we should ask someone. So in the team building aspects for organizations, we did connections, we did warm handoffs. So I don't give a partner a list of phone numbers and say, hey, phone these people up and good luck to you. It's taking the time, just like you would with the youth or family, to formally introduce people to help facilitate that introduction and stay there until you no longer need it. So that's the team building aspects of things. When we went to implementation for organizations and partners, the case file referrals that I'm receiving for our project is unbelievable. I talked to you about disability. I talked to you about health. I'm talking to you about justice. Those are the types of referrals that are coming in, and the fastest growing is coming from post-secondary institutions who are trying to help people after they graduate, help connect them to settlement agencies. So the fact that settlement agencies are on this call, you're needed. I also want to let settlement agencies know that Justice wants to start using settlement agencies as a prevention and intervention tool so that newcomers don't end up in systems they shouldn't be. The crisis management aspects, we have taken a number of human trafficking, particularly labor trafficking aspects of things. So what I'm really proud of and why I'm so proud that Kate has gone beyond the PR and refugee route is a lot of these survivors of trafficking fell outside of IRCC mandate. So the fact that we were able to case manage, one partner calls in and says, hey, I got this situation. We need this. And the fact that I can call any one of those 74 people and say, this is a case file that came in, let's go. I have the percent of this survivor, let's go. And the fact that we've been able to resolve things that timely, that's important. So that tools for documentation, when you get case files, when I do coaching with individual organizations to talk about how to keep your documentation, how to use that strengths, needs, and cultural document to help with intakes has become vital as we go along here. And transition. We have 21 natural support volunteers. Most of them, a lot of them were former newcomers themselves, again, that fall outside that mandated PR and refugee, who have said, you know what, we're willing to support organizations for free and or negotiate with organizations on their own to support their newcomer initiatives, to support their directives. The tech resources, if I could encourage anybody to increase your capacity, which is increase your ability to support newcomers, the tech industry is, if I didn't know and did not have a partner who said, you know what, tech is starting to do settlement. Do you know that? Do you know that a lot of newcomer youth who were not satisfied with their settlement services have developed their own tech means to help do settlement? If I had not been introduced to that potential by our industry partner, I never would have known that this was possible. So those tech resources are now becoming part of clear systemic responses. So shout out for two. Eleve Holmes was an international student who said that when he first arrived in Canada, he was homeless. He has now developed an app where they can be brokers for, of course, students don't have rental histories or credit histories. He has now created a brokerage aspects so that landlords will rent to newcomer students. He has also become partners with many post-secondary institutions because of this idea. So when you think of capacity building, think outside the box. Stop thinking of the straight line things. There's no such thing. So if our project ever gets set down, at least these natural supports and these aspects can continue. So the current strategy is we got the perspective, we got the stages of wraparound, which we actually taught the partners. But you know what? It was one of our natural supports volunteers, a 22-year-old who is currently a medical student in Pakistan, who said, you got to start teaching organizations how to utilize natural supports properly. So in year 3, we adopted her strategy, and it was a very effective strategy because that's when the engagement went boom. This past year, we showed implementation through case management. So we have brought actual case management cases to the project. Once that survivor or that client gives permission, and we've actually case managed as a team. So that storming, norming, forming part, we've actually started norming, which is really cool. And then I spend a lot of time, and our project spends a lot of time coaching organizations as how to do that case management aspects. So you know that turnover that I keep talking about, that constant turnover settlement, you know what I'm talking about. How does that language transfer itself? Now, Kate talks about the learning platform, which would be really helpful. But for right now, they need one concept that helps with that. And that's what our project acts as. So as we go into our final year here of coaching and training and supporting initiatives, lots of cool initiatives, folks. Justin is taking on the most initiatives. It has been so neat to see how probation in Alberta has advocated for having settlement be part of that intervention, particularly enhanced reports. The mental health lunch and learns that has occurred within for the project has been amazing. And having people who are professionals, mental health professionals who are newcomers themselves, give workshops on how you should approach different cultures differently based on their own lived experience is cool. The disability lunch and learns, again, we had an individual from the Filipino community who has a disability who actually gave advice as to how to engage newcomer families appropriately. We have an upcoming health forum. Again, the idea of one of our natural supports who's studying to be a doctor, 22 years old, folks. We're going to be having that on March the 11th. That also 23-year-old, as well as a few other people, says you should have a faith forum because a lot of faith organizations are doing settlement under the table. Of course, we talked about the tech industry developing initiatives, but also the initiatives examples. Kids Help Phone has a newcomer, a youth advisory that we're part of. ACT Alberta has a Southern Alberta stakeholders group. So those types of initiatives, WRAPCAP supports. And sometimes some of these have born out of that. The probation committee that we work with, the changing of conditions so that people understand what is needed and not needed is key. So if we go to our almost final aspects of things. So when we go back and we see all these things, we learn that this model, Kate was right. We had to amend it a little bit. It's too linear. Doesn't reflect the actual process of things. And so when I work with systems, they don't go in a straight line either. So that's why we're looking at utilizing motivational interview aspects of things, taking what people actually do every single solitary day and amend the model. So first of all, that it's realistic, attainable, and actually adaptable to regardless of what sector. And the 3 tools I always use, regardless of sector, is strengths, needs, the WRAP tools, the ability to assign and document, and how to handle crisis management. So if you've learned nothing today, this is what capacity building requires. You set because you have a proposal and it's right and it says do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then you gotta go, we gotta reset. Because something's gonna come in, whether it be tech, whether it be you get cut, whether it be resources where you're gonna have to reset. So you have to have a flexible mind in order to make things go where it needs to go. And then you have to be willing to take innovations chances. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We just did a conference that was hybrid, stressful for us, but people loved it. So why not try those things? And then you have to practice what you preach. When you work with organizations, if I want them to take the time to talk and listen, I have to do that as well. So that, from a partnership perspective, is something that I wanted to add to. And I see I'm just over the 20-minute mark for my part, but I wanted to add why it's important and why health, you need to be involved, and settlement you need to be involved. I did a presentation last week with one of our post-secondary partners, and one of our public school divisions said, you know what, they had received 3 times as many registrations for newcomer youth than they've ever had before. And they are so overwhelmed by that. It's the highest they've ever had in over a decade. That's our public. Our Catholic or separate school board has said that 30% of their newcomers, that of their population, 30% are newcomers or ELL. So the education system is seeing everything and they need help, which is why we're promoting health and Swiss workers working together to promote and support newcomer youth. So like I said, innovate and practice. And I hope you enjoyed what we talked about today.
So I think we'll just turn it back to Colleen, and if there's any questions, we can answer them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carolee and Kate, for that very informative question. I know I was madly taking notes, and I'm sure the audience was as well. I love the approach of this outside the box thinking, and I found it fascinating that youth are literally creating new tech if they can't find what they're looking for, which is, so interesting, and obviously some future thinkers. So let's dive into some of the questions, and audience, please feel free to pop any other questions into the Q&A box. Whatever we can't get to today, we are happy to take that offline. So let's dive in. And I think the first question, I'll send it over to Kate. When you worked with the youth on adapting the WRAP principles, just curious, were there any surprising edits, suggestions that, were the original WRAP principles, and then you thought, oh my goodness, this youth perspective has brought on something really different or unique?
I think what was really interesting about redefining the WRAP principles was we did it as a team over Zoom, actually. It was during peak work from home pandemic times, and the youth basically just we gave them some prompts and some pointers, but they were really involved in adapting it, and just kind of priming them with questions like how would someone asking you about your strengths be impactful for you in your daily life, or why is it important to have custom, like individualized services, or having natural supports, like who would you want on your team. So asking questions like that was really how we got to those WRAP principles. And it was interesting hearing the unique perspectives from the youth, but they were always similar. So we had, there was 8 of them on the team, and they were all from a different country of origin. So none of them had the same cultural background, and they all kind of just came to the same agreement on the terms just based on the conversation. And as Carolee mentioned, the relationship that you have to take the time to build with them. We had done 1.5 years of work with these kids already. So that relationship and trust was already there when we dived into exploring the different principles.
Fantastic. Yes, great to get that perspective. And then our next question, how do you handle the multiple languages spoken by the youth? And what services did you have for youth that are not fully fluent?
So one of the services that I used was Otter AI. So because a lot of our meetings were virtual in the first couple of years, it's a software, it's an AI software that transcribes in real time meetings. So if I were using it in this session, for example, you would see the live translations in your language of choice appearing at the bottom of the screen. So while I was speaking, if someone would prefer, or Arabic, for example, was their language of choice, it would automatically translate what I was saying to Arabic below, and they were able to read it to kind of understand, and vice versa. And then we also used a lot of volunteers and partners for translating of documents, and doing live translations on the phone and stuff. So we really utilized partners and resources that did that live translation.
Fantastic, the importance of those partners. How important is it, or do you feel that it's important, obviously, with family and community considerations in the WRAP principles? So how important was it to have those family and community considerations in the WRAP principles?
So for youth, that was a really important component. And as I had mentioned, one of the youth that participated in this process of developing the WRAP principles actually spoke at our conference recently in January. And they are huge advocates of, you can't just be doing WRAP with the kids. You also have to be doing it with the families, and you need to get the buy-in for the families. And that can be a really challenging part, especially in terms of mental health, because there's very different perspectives in a lot of cultures on mental health. And so how do you get the parents or the community on board to best support the needs of these kids was a very big conversation that we had and are continuing to have. And I don't think we have the answer yet, but I think just being open to building that relationship, not only with the kids you're working with, but with their parents and their communities is very important.
Absolutely. I could see how that would be. Our next question is, how can you gain access to the WRAPCAP online platform? And someone was also asking if you're aware of this work being done anywhere else.
If you are not currently a WRAPCAP partner, I would recommend reaching out to Carolee to discuss what that might look like, because right now within this project, our platform will only be available to our partners. Our hope is that IRCC sees the value in it and will fund something after the end of this project and kind of build on it. But at the moment, we will only be providing access to partners that are involved in the project.
To add to that, though, if you want, because partners are now, they drank the Kool-Aid now. They're willing to share resources and those aspects of things. And so if there's certain trainings that you need to support your teams, there's partners who are willing to do that. And so just come in and give that. The key training that's been developed is the RCMP, the Justice Training, which was a request put in by community corrections to say we're seeing an overrepresentation of newcomer youth coming to the justice system. We don't know how to work with them, and we don't know how to work with their partners. So I give them credit for being authentic. So we are in the process. We have created a training that's accessible for our CMP for Alberta, Manitoba, and subject to Nunavut and Saskatchewan. So as Kate said, if you need certain trainings, yeah, just give me a shout, because there's partners, although it's just for the project, but are willing to do and help other people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I have an individual wondering if your statistics, you're also seeing an increase in the number of youth with limited literacy. Nods there. Okay. Yeah, good to know.
I think especially within some of the newer refugee demographics, we're seeing that, especially with newcomer youth that are women or identify as women or girls, tend to have lower literacy. It's not across the board, but I'm sure most settlement agencies would agree that there is definitely a trend in that.
And if you talk to our education partners for at-risk youth, there's an assumption that if they get an interpreter, that the youth will understand aspects, but then it's the interpreters who figure out they're not literate in their language of origin, let alone English. And so that's why the partnerships between settlement workers, in-school settlement workers in particular, with health and other aspects of things, is vital to capture that demographic.
And just sorry to add on that, because Carolee made me think of something, was one of the trends we saw with our youth involved in this project was they might have the literacy standards because they came here at a young age, or their parents came and they were born here. Their parents might not have those literacy standards. So they're being thrust into the roles of translator, of communicator, and that can be really challenging for them and their mental health. And so really being able to identify if there's literacy needs within the family, not just the youth, and how we can better support that so that it does not have a negative effect on the youth is key.
Mm-hmm. Catching it right away, absolutely. I have a comment from one of our attendees, the challenge. So bringing multiple systems together is challenging when systems each have different resources. Funding readiness, any suggestions on ways to encourage agencies to come to the table to coordinate and collaborate and partner together? She's just looking for ways to encourage sectors to sit at the same table. So you've obviously been successful with your partners. Any suggestions you could offer our attendee?
I think this is where that engagement piece is really important, where you go for coffee and you take a phone call, you take Zooms. All systems have number requirements. All systems have to show an outcome. And so often I would sit down, what do you have to show here? Well, I have to show that I had this many meetings with this demographic. And you often will find out, if you have that outcome conversation, that they don't know how to reach the outcome. So it requires that system to be vulnerable and saying, this is what my requirements are. This is what I have to hit. I'm not sure where to hit. And that's where you go, well, actually, this other system can help you hit that. So maybe if you talk to them, they can support you and you can support them in what their requirement is. So this sounds it's just like kids. It's a currency. What's your currency? What do you need as opposed to what do you want? What's vital to you to function? And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. No one trusted me for the first little bit. And I think it also helped that Kate and I visually went out and visited different places. For a lot of people, they had never seen even their own IRCC officer come out. So it was very helpful to go out to a rural environment and walk the town and go, oh, okay, library's here and it goes from here to there. And then they have to walk from here. So understanding the lay of the land. So that in-person connection also encourages systems to actually come to the table. Like, wow, she took the time to come out and see what we had to do. And she saw our caseload and she understood that. So it's all relationship, which I know is a redundant term, but it's time as well.
Absolutely, Carolee. I'm a big fan of that relationship building and the importance of it. I think we have time for one more question. And Kate, maybe I'll just get you to pop down your slide deck, and I'll pop up the closing slides once we've done the last question. So, what has been the biggest lesson with implementing this program for you? And I'm sure there's been many.
I think for me, a big lesson was more so on I wouldn't even say it's a lesson for myself because I didn't write this program when it was applied for, but we realized very quickly that the youth aspect of this project was asking a lot from the kids. So it was to really get them to design and develop programs. And I think just the importance of, if you are the one writing programs or you're the ones developing programs, you need to collaborate and understand the abilities or the level of involvement that people can have in your project. So yes, youth can inform program and policy development, but expecting them to create the programs when they're in almost a survival mode in a new country, speaking a language that isn't their first language, is a really lofty expectation of them. So making sure you're adapting what you're doing so that you're meeting kids where they're at, and not expecting too much of them too soon was my big learning, I think.
Absolutely. Carolee.
And I think for me, my big learning, I think I knew this, that systems don't talk to each other, but this was systems don't talk to each other on some unbelievable level, right? So when you make a decision to say this many individuals are coming in, what systems does that impact, and impact immediately? So we have health here at the table and settlements at the table. How come they're not part of those discussions in the first place?
Right.
It's like inviting people to dinner, not having enough food. And so I think what I ended up being is, I'll say it here, I ended up being Tinder for professionals, forcing those systems who don't talk to each other to be in the room at the same time, so that when you're planning something or when you're trying to respond to something or develop a service delivery, you understand that you guys are interconnected, that the response of one will impact others. It's a domino effect. And so I think we knew that systems don't talk to each other, but I think particularly health being provincial, but settlement agencies, which is federal, seeing more and more newcomers come in with health and disability issues. Well, how do we help health? You can't. And what happens is that systems get blamed, or systems blame each other for not doing a good job, when really it's just there's no connection or no talking. So as Kate said, it's informing them, right? Informing and working. So I think I knew that, but I think I was horrified by how much there's no talking. So
Interesting. Well, hopefully today's presentation has encouraged some more talking, and our audience will be in contact with you to foster those relationships. I think we've come to our time, so I'll just go through our closing slides. And obviously, a big thank you very much to Carolee and Kate for taking time to participate in today's discussion. And many thanks, obviously, to our audience for joining us and engaging with us today with your active questions. We hope you will join us for our upcoming events. And next week, we'll be doing a launch event on February 28th, and we hope you'll join us. If you missed any part of today's presentation or would like to watch the session again, we will post the recording on the N4 platform within the next week. We want to continue the dialogue this presentation has started. We will be moving all questions we did not get a chance to address to N4's online moderated discussion forum called Meeting Place. We have invited our presenters to respond to your questions there. We also have curated several resources related to today's presentation topic. You can find these in our resource toolkit. We will link to an on-demand version of this discussion. So if you haven't yet, please sign up for newcomernavigation.ca for all our resources and learning opportunities. Following today's session, we will invite you to complete a survey to share your feedback with N4. These surveys help us continuously improve and seek out new webinar contact and opportunities. And obviously, we kindly ask that you follow the link and complete the brief survey. The ITP and IEN pathway was published by N4 in December, and we will be hosting, as I mentioned, our launch event on February 28th, and we hope you will join us. Check out our N4 mobile app available on Apple and Android devices through the QR code here, or by going to newcomernavigation.ca/iOS for Android. Thank you again. We hope you join us for a future N4 event. Stay safe and stay well. Thanks so much.